Hi Cosmic Warriors, and welcome back to another video. So in preparation for new content that I have coming to Hannah's Elsewhere, I just really wanted to take the time to record this video today in order to perhaps help you understand astrology more deeply. So I guess in a way this video is kind of like the introduction video as a way to lead into all the other videos that are to come beginning of Aries season. Because essentially the direction that I'm wanting to head in with my channel is by really looking at the zodiac signs as archetypal images that exist within both the real world, so the physical world I suppose, and within the spiritual world. So first things first, what exactly is an archetype? Well, from a psychoanalysis viewpoint, and according to the legend himself, Carl Jung, an archetype is a primitive mental image inherited from the earliest human ancestors and supposed to be present within the collective unconscious. So the best way to really explain this is by taking you back in time. Yes, we're going to take you back in time to when our ancestors discovered the stars. They had less light pollution, that's for sure. And back then, did you know that they used the stars as a way to get from A to B? Yes, they used the stars as maps. So before roads existed, before road signs existed, they used these things right above us in order to navigate themselves throughout Earth. And even till this day, captains in ships, they also have to learn about the stars as well. Our ancestors also told many stories using the stars. I mean, take mythology for example, right? The Greek god of war, Ares, Ares, A-R-E-S, well, it is this very Greek god that is connected with the sign of Aries within astrology. For example, we learn within the story or the myth of the god of war, Ares, that Ares' anger was relatively uncontrollable. And it's these very qualities that are also connected or seen within the sign of Aries as well. And according to Ask an Astrologer, the earliest cavemen would look up to the sky and wonder about what makes it run. The source later on follows by stating, the first use of constellations was probably religious. People thought that the gods lived in the heavens and that they created them. Many cultures believed that the positions of the stars were their god's way of telling stories. So it seemed natural to recognize patterns in the sky, give them names, and tell stories about them. We inherited the names for our constellations from the Greeks, and they named the constellations after their mythological heroes and legends. So behind every constellation, there is a story. But it does not just stop there, because our ancestors also used astrology practically. They used astrology as a measuring tool in order to know when the best time was to do certain things. So essentially they used it as a way to form a calendar, right? In order to then know which time of the year would be best for sowing and harvesting, but then which time of the year would be best for just hibernating. It's kind of like that show Game of Thrones where they constantly say, winter's coming.
Winter is coming.
Winter is coming.
And winter is coming.
For example, they knew that when Orion, so the constellation of Orion, when that was brightest in the night sky, that signified that indeed winter was soon to come. So whenever we do look more closely at the study of astrology, we notice that astrology can be used as a tool in order to help us move throughout our lives based upon the alignments and the measurements of the stars, the skies above us. It can help us analyze the best time to bathe in the sun, for example, being summer, and it can help us analyze the best time to just stay indoors, tucked away from the cold during winter. And this right here leads me on to the archetypes within the study of astrology, because what astrology also shows us is that it is comprised of symbolism. and its symbolism that is derived from the collective unconscious. Just as archetypes are derived from the collective unconscious as well. I mean, it's symbols that communicate a certain message, right? Take the ancient Egyptians for an example here. They would have used the hieroglyphs as ways to communicate. They use these hieroglyphs in order to get a story out there, in order to tell a story, in order to talk about the certain events that they experienced, how they viewed life through their certain symbols. But then another person from a different culture who maybe doesn't know of these hieroglyphs, they will look at that symbolism and they would be a little bit confused as to, well, what does that mean? I'm used to this language over here, I'm used to this symbolism over here, but this one, not so much. But the word glyphs you can see within astrology. It's just that when it comes to glyphs, we mostly refer to these things as symbols within astrology, but symbols and glyphs pretty much mean the same thing. Let's take Mars for example, right? It is Mars that comes with its own meaning through its message, through its symbolism. And it's this meaning that was derived from the information that our ancestors gave it. Try to imagine it as if you're looking up at the night sky for the very first time and you see the planet Mars for the first time. And you point up to that planet and you say to your friend next to you, look, look. You point to that planet and you ask your friend, what is the name of that planet? What's the name of it? Naturally, your friend, if they know the answer, they will tell you the very name of this planet based upon what your friend was told. Then what you do is you return home and then you start researching Mars. You want to know, tell me more about Mars, I want to know, because this really interests me, it intrigues me, I'm curious now about this planet. And so you may discover that Mars is the second smallest planet within the solar system, but you might also stumble upon much information about Mars in correlation with astrology. And by doing so, you might discover that within astrology, Mars is the planet of initiation, willpower, aggression, action, and assertion, amongst other things, of course. But again, all of this in itself is information. Information formed and created within this reality based upon the labels and names that were assigned to that very thing or to that very stuffs that you're learning about either for the first time or the 10th time or the 100th time. Therefore guys, archetypes are also seen within the knowledge, within the study of astrology. This right here is what makes astrology a study of symbolism, discovery, and wonder. If you can imagine our ancestors telling those stories back then, they paid attention to the cycles with deep care, whilst they also expressed their different characteristics and personality traits. Within these fairy cycles, they almost projected all of their thoughts and ideas onto the skies above them, that they sort of projected their own images based upon their own experiences and different stories and mythologies. And so they were able to formulate some sort of connection with the stars above as these guiding forces. When you hear these different myths of these constellations, you hear of Zeus. So Zeus placed Aries upon the sky after the story, or Zeus placed Gemini within the sky after the certain story. So in a way, these fairy constellations and their meanings and their symbolism, it's these things that have been derived from the human psyche, from the collective unconscious. In return, what did the stars do? What did they do? Well, they sent their vibrations right back. Because just as the principle of correspondence, right, part of the 7 Hermetic principles, as above, so below, meaning that the outer world is indeed a reflection of the inner world, meaning that the thoughts and the intentions and the ideas that we hold within our consciousness, they begin to subconsciously manifest themselves into the external circumstances, and so we then create our reality through those very thoughts and through those very intentions. So when it does come to the natal birth chart, we are presented with many symbols, many archetypes to discover and explore and articulate. We want to know the meaning of these things. So what does it mean to have a Taurus sun and an Aries moon? What does it mean to have a Gemini sun and a Pisces moon? What does it mean to have a Sagittarius sun and a Taurus moon? And how exactly do these vibrations play out within our reality? How do they play out within our own psyche? So what were the stories that our ancestors told about the signs, and how did they then develop throughout time? Did the dialogue change as we progressed as a humanity? Or was it that the dialogue got jaded and tampered with? Take Uranus, Neptune and Pluto for example here. These 3 planets were not discovered with the telescope until the 1700s onwards. So were our ancestors still experiencing the same things that we experience today with the vibrations that these planets give off? Or is it that we placed our own intentions onto these planets after their discovery, resulting in the cycles that we see today? Take Vedic astrology. Vedic astrologers, they do not use these 3 planetary bodies. But why? Why do they not use them? Essentially getting to the question here of what is it that Western astrology can learn from Vedic astrology, but also what is it that Vedic astrology can learn from Western astrology? Is it that the West can learn from the Vedic how to be more at peace with themselves by accepting their fate? Or is it that the Vedic can learn from the West that the West are in their own concrete jungle comprised of free will and decision making? Though still, some might completely just write off Uranus, Neptune and Pluto and completely devalue it because of the fact that one cannot see them with the naked eye. But that begs the question, is seeing believing? Does one have to see something in order to acknowledge its existence? But let's see what science has to say about this. Now, according to the research that David Icke has performed within his own studies,
do you know when we say, I saw it with my own eyes? No, you did not. We don't see with our eyes, I didn't know that. We see with the visual cortex in the brain.
meaning that the brain edits out what it does not want to see. And according to R.C. Henry, a fundamental conclusion of the new physics also acknowledges that the observer creates the reality. As observers, we are personally involved with the creation of our own reality. Physicists are being forced to admit that the universe is a mental construct. But what exactly does that mean when it comes to astrology? Well, it suggests that the natal birth chart that you all have, right, because everybody has their own natal birth chart, that started with a thought. The thing to keep in mind here is that consciousness is everything. Everything. So your dog, your pencil, your phone that you're maybe watching this on right now, your parents, the rock on the ground, but it's our own consciousness that pulls this information from the subconscious and into reality.
So what is consciousness? It is information. All information comes from consciousness. What the hell else, or where the hell else is it going to come from? You know, the source of all information is consciousness. People say, oh, what about the information through this machine or this gadget? Well, Where do you think that information has come from? Who's built the gadget? Who's had the idea for the gadget?
Now, the subconscious mind, it is infinite in all of its possibilities. Whilst the conscious mind, that brings awareness to bringing these possibilities into existence. Say, for example, you are thinking of buying a new car, or baking a cake, or getting a new dress, or going up to someone and telling them that you really like them and you want to ask them on a date. It's these very things that you act on and bring into reality due to the thoughts that you had in the first place of wanting to make those certain things a reality for yourself. So what we are essentially doing continuously is we're constantly pulling from our subconscious and trying to bring all that into our own conscious awareness. So 90% of our actions are performed unconsciously, whilst only about 10% are done consciously. So if you can imagine that the subconscious is kind of like the driver. It sort of drives everything, but your conscious mind is trying to control where that driver goes. It's like your conscious mind is in the passenger seat giving direction to the subconscious that's in the driving seat and saying, turn this way, go that way, straight ahead. Plus, it's also the conscious mind that can program that subconscious mind. So you can imagine the passenger is then saying to the subconscious, this is what we're going to do today, we're going to do it tomorrow, we're going to do it the next day. And so what it does, it creates a repetition for the subconscious mind, and then the subconscious mind doesn't even need the conscious mind anymore in the passenger seat, and it just goes automatically. Therefore, guys, all consciousness, both conscious and subconscious, is information. It's all information. Our entire universe is comprised of information. Right now, you're watching this video, it is information. It is all of these different things that are happening within your psyche right now as you watch this video. All these ideas and thoughts are just going off in your head right now as you watch this, because it's information coming at you and you're processing. Your mind is trying to process all that information into your own psyche. You come with your own filters and your own lens. So this is a lens that I'm using with a camera, but your eyes themselves, they're lenses, they're your own filters that you see the world through and what you know the world through. And so as you're watching this video, you're doing so based upon your own perception. But the most amazing thing about it is that this information is infinite. It is infinite in all of its possibilities. But then we as individuals, we are all an expression, an individual expression of those infinite possibilities. And so it's astrology that is a structure formed from universal thought and mind. It is your natal birth chart that can help you towards discovering more of the puzzle for yourself, discovering more layers of you as you're able to unravel different parts of yourself through awareness and analysis and development and growth. And this right here is why the first house within astrology is that house that leads that chart forward, asserts that chart forward towards self-discovery. Because it is from the first house that the story begins. It's from the first house that we are led throughout the rest of the chart towards becoming more aware of who we are within this physical reality, and also who we are as infinite beings. Howard Saspertaz put it greatly when he referred to the natal birth chart as the maze we create as well as the way out of the maze. Meaning, guys, that astrology can be used as this amazing tool that can help us create within the world that what we want. But it can also be used as an amazing tool to help create peace and acceptance within ourselves and between us and others, where we are able to transcend the physical levels of our own conscious awareness towards higher states of conscious awareness as we then tune more into our higher selves. So not only can astrology be an amazing tool when it comes to practicality and physicality, but it can also be an amazing tool when it comes to our own spiritual growth. So whenever it does come to the law of correspondence, we notice that the energies that illuminate from within us, they will impact our outer environment, just as our outer environment will impact the energy that exists from within us as well. Meaning that everything you see within your reality, it has some sort of information to deliver to you about yourself, about the thing that you're looking at, and about the world around you. So it's the archetypes within astrology that are comprised of information as well. But it's up to us to utilize the information or to not use the information, but keeping in mind that the higher mind continues on, that the universe is still in motion. Everything is continuously vibrating and in motion. So even if someone does not want to study their natal birth chart, the vibrations from the collective unconscious, they will continue to manifest at the same time. But for those of you who are watching this video, you're obviously interested in what the collective unconscious has to say. You're interested in what astrology has to say about your life. You're interested in what astrology has to say about your personality and of the events that are due to happen based upon the energies and the cycles that the collective is experiencing. Now, I'm not here to tell you your future. I'm here to bring awareness based upon the research and the studies that I have done personally. What I'm here to show you is that all the signs, all of these archetypes, they play a role within your life as the individual that you are, but also as the infinite being that you are, showing you that there is so much opportunities and potential that can be reached and strived for by using the cosmic language that is astrology. Whilst I am doing so, I will be providing practical advice as to how you can utilize these archetypes effectively within your own life if you choose to do so. So with that in mind, what is your story? How does it unfold for you throughout your natal birth chart? And how do your placements correspond with your everyday life? But most importantly, what is reality? Well, David Icke stated that reality is whatever you think it is. Alright guys, so that concludes my video on trying to explain the zodiac signs as archetypes and also trying to explain the birth chart as a story. Your life, because your life is essentially a story, but also these archetypes are they sort of play their own characters and roles as part of that story. So even if we take the likes of Joseph Campbell with the hero's journey, he made a certain construct of how that hero's journey would play out with all the different themes and the different experiences that the hero would have. Well, when I think of astrology, I also think of a similar sort of format, but of course done differently based upon the different areas of life that we go throughout that entire chart. So yeah guys, I hope that you find this video to be somewhat helpful and useful. If you did, certainly let me know in the comment section, or if you want to add anything else to this video, then feel free to comment as well. And you know, just share more of what you know, because I would like to know what you guys know too, because you know what, I'm also learning. Thank you so much for watching, thank you for subscribing, and of course if you'd like to see more videos from myself and you've not yet clicked that subscribe button, then go right ahead and do so, because there's a lot of content coming to this channel. And I will be back then with another video very, very soon.